This is Feet on the Street. We are here in Longview and glad that you're part of with us. And now we're going to skip the yellow brick road and explore this town. Thank you. And welcome once more to Feet on the Street, live at KLTV, Longview, Washington, 636-3310. Call us for a good time. We will hook you up in the American tradition. This week's question, who served as first Vice President of the United States? You got to answer that, folks. Classic, important figure in American history, which leads me to my guest this evening. Mr. Larry Wagle, history teacher, veteran, man of many things. Hank Sowerwine,
nice to see you again.
Entrepreneur, spirited person, very involved, both of you gentlemen. Two amazing gentlemen that bring some richness and life to our region, and I'm grateful to have them here. This is person to person, neighbor to neighbor, moment to moment, and what makes this area special. So from this uncle to you uncles out there, grandpas, parents, moms and daughters, sisters, whatever, welcome, and welcome you gentlemen. So, I must ask, what happened to our country?
Larry, how much did he have to pay you to be here tonight?
He paid me $5.
See, that's the problem with this country. We're just not paid enough.
Yeah. What's wrong with this country? What's going on in this country? What we have is a Supreme Court that continues to make corporations richer and more powerful, and also a little bit too wealthy, more powerful. We have a Congress that worries about balancing the budget when we got all this huge number of people unemployed, and any Keynesian economist will tell you that you don't balance the budget during a depression. And of course, I think that there's people who are, well, politics is politics, but I think the Republicans have said from the very beginning they want to make this guy a one-term president. And that's what I see happening, amongst other things.
Go ahead, Mr. Hank.
The question was, what's happened to our country?
Yes.
Was that, how did you mean that, Ray?
Whichever way you decide to take it, because the satisfaction level and the sense of country unity is far different than it was when I was growing up as a kid.
Well, far be it for me to be short on words, so I'll give you a long answer to a short question. We have been so gradually but persistently coddled, that these days, children grow up with more and more of the things that they don't really need, but they want. Parents, governments teach us to be dependent upon someone else, not self-reliant. And when you live in a situation where you have expectations, not for what you can do for yourself, but what somebody else is going to do for you, it's a rather sad situation. And then think back about what our parents did for us, what our teachers did for us, Larry, okay? What our government did to make sure, not for us, but that together we could make a difference. It's different today. I'm not a political person, but I can say I'm very much pained by what I see. The path of government teaching people that it's okay to depend upon the government to take care of their problems, and it really shouldn't be. Self-reliance, that's one of the reasons why I like to support organizations like the Boy Scouts, where you're shown and given an opportunity to do things that maybe you didn't know you could do. And you see that spark come alive in a young person's eyes when they realize that they can put up a tent, or they can start a fire, or they can cook their meal themselves. These are just crazy examples, but you know what I'm talking about, I hope. Because what are food stamps? What's unemployment insurance? You know how I feel when I hear one of the jobs programs aspects is going to be to extend unemployment insurance? That's a way, hey, you pay people not to work, they're not going to work. It's totally upside down.
How do you feel about WPA having them work?
You mean building trails and pouring concrete and that
Whatever.
type of thing?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I feel much better about encouraging the individuals to start their own ideas. Anytime you have a job dependency program that's dependent upon someone else, you've got a problem. I think on the other, let me back up to your question. What happened to this country in terms of the spirit of the can-do spirit and Yankee ingenuity and great principles and can-do? This country still got it, but it's being stifled so much that it's frustrating to see. I wasn't around for the WPA, Larry.
I think it's the greatest program we've ever had in this country. Roosevelt intended it to be a permanent thing, but the Republicans came into power in 1943 during the war, and they managed to kill it. We've never had it back since then.
I remember seeing WPA stamped into my sidewalk in my little hometown.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I went out and built trails in the woods for the Forest Service myself. I didn't have somebody go do it for me. And that was much more productive than being paid to do just a make work type of job. No, I think the part of the problem is that as we've evolved through the 40s and the post-war boom, remember the old phrase, keeping up with the Joneses?
Yeah.
Somebody had a car, you wanted a car. Somebody had a two-car garage, oh boy, you wanted a two-car. They've got a color TV. I can remember listening to radio. I got up in the morning and listened to Woody Woodpecker. We didn't have a TV for a while.
Yeah.
But, what was my point? Oh, okay. Keeping up with the Joneses. It used to be, it was accumulate, accumulate, accumulate. Look around you now. People are getting rid of things, not just old farts like us.
Yeah.
But people don't need the clutter. They find that they can live just as happily without all the material things. Well, if you start reducing the need for material things, there goes your economy in terms of producing things. Okay. So the demand function has slipped. I mean, think what it used to cost us to make long-distance phone calls. Yeah?
Yeah.
Now we get unlimited long distance packaged with more stations than you can flip through if you have a television, plus your high-speed internet, and it costs a fraction of what it used to cost in terms of real dollars. And look at the entertainment value, the brain-numbing value. You know what, Ray, you were right. I could talk too long. But I'll go back. Anyway, point is, we don't do enough things as individuals. We don't enjoy life. We don't look up. We don't see the scenery. We don't have fun. Kids don't go out and play games like they used to. A few do.
Yeah.
A few do still. Maybe we need to go backwards a little bit so we don't know what's going on in the next country or let alone the next state. We'd be happier, wouldn't we?
What I see is that, for example, a CCC, you know, they have Civilian Conservation Corps. They put kids 18 to 25 to work on a lot of different things.
Sure.
Too often kids, I think, don't, and young adults, feel that they don't have a function.
Oh.
Some, of course, if you're more middle class, upper class, you definitely do have a function, you understand it. But very often, poor kids, they just don't see where they fit in. CCC, just like the military, it gives you a place where you can feel that you fit in.
Let me ask you a question, Larry. When you were a child, and I know you were young once.
That's a lie.
Yeah. We're counting backwards. We all admit that.
Yeah.
But when you were young, do you remember what it was like to wake up in the morning and be excited about what you were going to do that day?
Some days, yeah.
Yeah? Do you suppose kids feel that way much anymore?
It depends on how miserable or non-miserable their life is. Some kids have a very miserable life.
Well, okay, take it, let's not go to the extreme, because in a bell curve you got them on both sides,
sure.
but you got the hump in the middle. I'll maintain that when you look at the faces of youngsters these days, like Ray, okay, sometimes you see a spark, but very, very seldom in terms of just the children that are visible. Now, those that are not visible maybe are off doing fun things and enjoying life and growing and being healthy. But look at the faces of the kids who, most of them don't have a job. They don't even know what a lawnmower is, let alone figure out how to use it to make money, you know, for their own. They're not allowed to deliver newspapers anymore. What are some of the other examples that we used to do as kids?
How about pick strawberries?
Oh, perfect.
Oh, God.
No, don't get him started.
No, let's bring it out.
He probably ate every other one that he picked, you know.
Oh.
Hey, when was the last time you went strawberry picking?
I was about 13 years old, and there was some place where us young kids went, and we were taken off in an old school bus somewhere northeast of Seattle. Yeah. And we picked strawberries. And first of all, I was a lousy strawberry picker. And
was your tongue red at the end of the day?
I had a few.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But really not many. I was, but I remember it was terrible hard work. And I would say that I would really like to a certain degree, just to a certain degree, weaken the child labor laws, but only for the purpose of helping the kid develop, not helping the boss.
Are you going to be the judge of the?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I'll be judge.
As long as you'll be there to judge. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be there to judge. Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with kids learning to work at an early age.
Not at all.
But it's not good for them to work huge, long hours.
Some of the more interesting kids, as they grow up in adulthood, that really have the entrepreneurial drive and spirit, at least in my limited experience, are those who have grown up in a family where there's a family business, and they know how to count back change and you know, do all the aspects of the business just because they grew up with it.
Yeah.
And it's natural. Yeah, but back to picking strawberries, I have to tell you, even at our age, it's still fun.
Yeah.
I went up last year to Crawford's. I got so tired of bending over, I just lay down on my back. I put my head on one of those little boxes, and I just ate.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I got up, the color of that dirt up there, it's the color of your suspenders.
Oh.
I couldn't hide it. Anyway.
Yeah.
What happened to the country, Ray? I don't know.
Well, as of the report this morning, poverty rate is at 18.4%. Yeah. That's 1 out of 5 Americans are living in poverty.
Yeah.
We've got an employment situation which is ridiculous. It's not that people aren't willing to work, from my view. I mean, if you want my opinion, but we've got union issues, which I'm going to open a can of worms here, but there are things that have happened, and we've let ourselves become powerless. That's my personal opinion. Because
you mean
people
individually?
don't vote, they're not actively engaged. When voter turnout is 30-some%, and we're coming up with another election here locally for our city, the turnout's going to be ridiculously low. People aren't involved. They're free to be armchair critics. But the involvement starts every day, moment to moment, where you shop, how you spend that dollar, the people you invest yourself in, because they are our neighbors. Okay, throw it back at me. Either one of you.
You did that all in one breath. That's not fair.
I ran for office once, remember?
Yeah, once or twice.
Yeah, I'd say that we got to have jobs available for the young. And I don't care if you want to call it socialism or whatever in the world you want to call it. The WPA was socialism. The WPA kind of held the nation's spirit together during the Great Depression. It was a marvelous achievement in that sense. Now,
well, Larry, that's right. But wouldn't you agree, though, at the same time, that even though during severely hard times, maybe we all could agree that the government is usually the employer of last resort?
Yeah, and it should be.
But at the same time, shouldn't we do everything we possibly can, and I don't mean borrow money and spend money we don't have, but everything we possibly can, to set the table so that people who do have ideas and the potential for employing others have the environment in which they can see that it's worth their risk, the risk of their own capital, to take a chance to start a business.
Yeah.
I won't tell you who, but one of my very good friends here in town, when I was asking him for a donation once for a cause, okay, he said, Hank, he says, no, I'm not interested in giving. He says, the most noble thing that I can do for my community is to start a business and hire people.
Yeah.
And you know what? For him, he's absolutely right, and he's done that successfully for a long time now. But I don't think we have the right approach collectively as a country when it comes to problem solving, the problem being how do you get to that point where people will take the initiative to start something?
I would say I'm all in favor. I've been probably called a communist as much as anybody in this town, but still, I'm not at all against the idea of people starting their own small business. And of course, I guess the majority of people in this country do work for a small business, and that's great. But right now, there is just no place in our economy for jobs. You just, people look and look and look and look and get nothing. Remember, once I spent a summer looking and looking and looking, and I didn't get a job until I went to my uncle's funeral. And I met a woman there who knew that J.C. Penney's needed a stock boy on the 3rd floor in downtown Seattle. But the thing is, especially poor black people, they don't know, they don't have many contacts to people in business. I have a nephew who, next door neighbor, owned a print shop, and so he had an easy in. A lot of black people especially don't know people who could give them a job. So I would say that we've got to have a job for people. People need a job. It's a matter of emotional stability for people.
Yeah, but Larry, the reality of consequences is something that we don't really face in this country like we used to. If I needed a job and my family was starving, I'd lost my house, and I still had any hope, I would probably have to move to a place where there were jobs. You know, there are places where the unemployment in this country is measured in the 2 and 3%.
Yeah.
Not 18%.
Yeah.
Okay. But now we have a system which is designed with the right intentions, but it gets corrupted and abused because people take advantage of the system, they get lazy. Unemployment insurance pays a certain amount of money for a certain period of time. Then what do? Then you get serious about looking for a job. Now it seems like it's turning into an entitlement where it's just a dead end. And I go back to the opinion that if we were, instead of being coddled at the point of pain, if we had to deal with that pain and take care of it ourselves, what would we do differently? Maybe we wouldn't have that cell phone or that Wi-Fi, or, who knows?
Yeah. Roosevelt actually came up with unemployment before I came up with the WPA. WPA was 1935, and unemployment came out in 33. But I kind of wish it would have been reversed, and I wish there would have been more dependence on WPA. That is, you get the money if you do this job.
Right.
And I would agree with people who say that, well, if you get money for sitting on your rump, you are tempted to continue to do that.
Yeah, it's Newton's law of motion, right?
Yeah, but the big thing is we've got to have a place where people can go and say, I want a job. Back in those days, they had you digging ditches. In fact, if you should drive through one of the national parks in the Appalachians, they were building a road through there. And the big thing was to put people to work. It was not to get it done efficiently, put people to work. So they actually had to blast. And what they did is they had the men drill the holes the same way that John Henry did with a hammer. And so they drove down and dropped in the dynamite, and they blew the roads open. So that, I think, is the thing we need. Jobs. Of course, it'd be nice to be both efficient and jobs, but the most important thing is jobs. It does so much for a person. I was unemployed almost 2 years, and I remember I got this job. And it was, I had to be there at 6. I didn't want anything to go wrong. I was there at 5. And I got $2 an hour, $2.50 an hour. That was my wage at that time. You were overpaid. I was overpaid, yeah. But at least it was a job. And you felt so good. You bring home a paycheck.
Absolutely.
And so it's a marvelous feeling. And I would say that the great majority of people, they feel real good about getting a job. Now, maybe I have maybe a little bit of partiality towards socialism.
Well, you forgot to tell me what job that was.
Oh, I was aircraft electrician.
What kind?
Aircraft electrician.
That's not a government job?
No, it was, my very first job was at Boeing.
Okay, private industry.
Yeah. No, it was really...
The big bad company, Boeing, right?
No. I don't call it private industry. I call it part of the industrial, military industrial...
the one that Eisenhower warned us about.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But at the same time, it was the profit end. So we have a big, huge armed force, and of course this is profit. This is for the businessman, and of course us common slob sailors, we do it otherwise. But I was about to say that I was Navy sailor, Socialist Navy of the United States.
Yeah.
I was a socialist school teacher, and Boeing I'd call semi-socialism. So maybe I have a very different background than you, all except about maybe 4 or 5 years of my life I've been working in a socialized industry. And I will claim that when I was a socialist teacher, I was more productive than the average businessman.
Larry, I have to admire your productivity. I have to tell you, I never worked for a wage. I was always on commission for what I did.
Yeah.
Until I moved to Longview.
And what was your dad's background?
My father's background? His parents, his dad was with the Anaconda Company back when Anaconda ran Montana.
Yeah, sure.
But back in New Jersey, and then he went to college, graduated from Annapolis in '33.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Went into private industry because there was no war going on.
Sure.
when Pearl Harbor happened, back into the Navy.
Yeah.
Settled in Kalispell, built a brickyard. Was the distributor for Saucony Mobil Oil for many years. Started a community college and a savings and loan.
Yeah.
And I wish I could accomplish half the things he did in his life. Why do you ask?
I think you just told me why you believe what you just stated were your beliefs, because you have been trained into that, probably in your family, just a conversation around the dinner table. I would have, first of all, most naval officers tend to be Republican, and yeah, they are mostly. And so probably you picked up a lot of those ideas. And really, I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking it at all. In fact, I really wish that more people did have that sort of a background.
Okay.
And if they did, they would see it more like you do, and they wouldn't need WPA projects near as much. But take a person who's...
I'll take that as a compliment, but okay, I'm following you.
Suppose you take a person who's lives in the slums, black or white, makes no difference. They have no role models like your dad.
Right.
Well,
maybe, perhaps you say they don't, but I would maintain that they do.
Well, some do, yeah. And of course, there's black millionaires in this country. But
it doesn't have to be a matter of material wealth to be a role model.
The role model is a big thing. And if they have that sort of a sense of, I can do it, my daddy did it, it's a good thing for people to have.
Okay, so you're shaping your approach towards politics, towards a life of socialism, based upon your feeling for being necessary to take care of those who you see as trapped?
Yeah, trapped
by their circumstances?
Yeah, sure. By the way, I remember that back in the 30s, go ahead.
No, I don't want to interrupt you. You're on a roll. Go ahead. I'm sorry. It's hard to listen sometimes. Back in the 30s. Back in the 30s,
the New Dealers often talked about a mixed economy, some socialism and some capitalism. And to me, that I've always thought is the way it ought to be. I don't see socialism as any way bad, and of course, I really, in many ways, I do see capitalism as good. But the thing is, the biggest problem we have is we have too large a population.
Yeah.
If the population was far smaller, they'd have more chance, like your